The Ace Attorney series on the surface seems to be just a normal detective game, and eventually comes down to a whodunit. And likewise, you would expect the suspects and others to be just normal people, but the characters in Ace Attorney are so much more than that. Every character in the series has something so unique about them, whether it be their over-the-top expressions or simply their speech patterns. Nearly every character is integrated into the games and cases, whether they be witnesses or your opponent in court. Mix all those things together with some really deep backstories and motives, and you have yourself one of the most diverse and interesting casts of characters put into a video game. And out of many characters featured across the 7 games, there are specific people who stand out as the most memorable. So this is my top 10 personal favorite Ace Attorney characters. Also, big spoilers for all these characters' backstories and how they're important to the stories. You have been warned. Now let's get started. The reason most characters in the series are loved is because of their grand effect they have on the overall plot. This makes the faces who appear in more than one case more impactful because you get to see the character in different types of situations, allowing both their true personality and backstory to show. But sometimes you just need one silly, ridiculous, over-the-top guy. Or girl. Robin Newman is just a silly character that has some moments in Dual Destiny's third case, Turnabout Academy. At first, Robin seems to act like your normal witness, acting in suspicious ways and having interesting sprite movements such as throwing art on the floor. And for the most part, he is just that, until you start to question him. During the first trial of the case, Robin is acting really strange, trying on girls' dresses and feeling angry from the bad attention he's getting. So Robin takes his gloves off, or in this case, body brace, and everything changes. That's right, Robin is a girl. Not only does this plot twist come literally out of nowhere, Robin's entire personality changes. He goes from this extremely manly, overboard dude into a girl who does twirls and giggles after everything she says. This one personality trait makes Robin stand out from your usual case witnesses. She may just be looking at a pair of high heels in awe, and then on the flip of a dime, switch to doing her best Shia LaBeouf impression. Do it! It really makes her stand out from most of the other one-off characters. Transgenderism for the win! The prosecutors in the series have always been a 50-50 chance, and what I mean by that is that you either love them or you hate them. While this is normally on purpose for you to hate a certain prosecutor like Manfred von Karma, on rare occasions your opinion of a courtroom foe may change. The best example of this would be Edgeworth, but there's a much more creative transition for a prosecutor. Some may call him the best. Why are you looking at me like that? I'm not afraid to admit I love Sebastian the Best from Investigations 2. For those who have not played Investigations 2, this choice makes no sense to you, but the people who played the translation have a radically different opinion. The best way I can describe just Sebastian is being a big, gigantic moron. Like Wheatley and Big the Cat had a stupid child. Sebastian is really freaking dumb. He can't use common sense, he needs help from everyone around him, and cannot even speak correct English. Add in the fact he thinks he's brilliant with a big, arrogant face, and I really should hate this guy. And for about 90% of the game, I did. By case 4, I was groaning at him appearing again. And then the grand turnabout happened. And my entire opinion changed. After he accidentally assists the arrest of his own father, learning that Justine Courtin doesn't actually care for him, and getting kidnapped by his own father's workers, Sebastian loses all hope in life. The only thing he ever wanted was to get approval from his dad. His father was the only person he looked up to, and when your role model is a lying, deceiving murderer, you tend to get a little sad. Edgeworth calms Sebastian down long enough to get the info he needs, and Edgeworth heads to court to find things going rather sour. Blaze comes out to taunt everyone, and the case seems to come to an end. Objection! Sebastian appears, and with a new song to boot. He brings the incriminating evidence that not only convicts Roland, but his father too. This moment, this one single moment, is the reason I love Sebastian the Best. Capcom turned an arrogant little brat that I wanted to punch in the face into an awesome attorney with an emotional backstory. I think that in itself makes Sebastian a great prosecutor. One character that I wish the series fleshed out was Gregory Edgeworth. Being one of the only attorneys to stand up to Manfred von Karma, and that he met his tragic end in DL6 made him a favorite even though we never saw him personally. And that was up until Investigations 2 with the Inherited Turnabout. And even though we don't get to see him for a whole lot of time, at least we get a spiritual successor. Raymond Shields may not be the Gregory Edgeworth we wanted, but I would be lying if I said I didn't love this guy. Ray was Gregory's apprentice who basically took over the law office after DL6. After a rather long, convoluted order of events, Edgeworth and Ray re-meet. And as soon as I met Ray, I knew he would be one of my favorites. He's able to be so cool, but he's still a complete dork, and I mean that in the best way. On the one hand, his theme is awesome, his attorney skills rival even Phoenix, and his voice, oh, his voice. Objection! But on the other hand, he claps like this, is obsessed with hugs, and eats his own notes. I don't even know where to start with that last one. Factor in his corny and sometimes inopportune jokes, and you have a character that can keep you smiling till the very end. And this is not even mentioning his role in the story. Learning that Miles has lost his path of Von Karma for the best, Ray offers Edgeworth to come back to his father's attorney office. And this leads to one of the best internal struggles in the series. Ray also gives us some great insight into Gregory Edgeworth, which I already mentioned I wanted to know. He talks about Gregory with such respect and kindness that it's almost impossible to get a little teary-eyed. We may not ever get another chance to see Gregory in action, but Uncle Ray is the closest thing we have. Time to finally sink our teeth into the protagonists. Athena Sykes is the most adorable character in the entire series, and it's almost impossible not to love her. With the new 3D art style that Dual Destinies brought in, Athena came to fill in the gap by being the most anime character I have ever seen. Just look at the cinematic. Even though we only get to play as Athena for one case, her personality is so vibrant and diverse that I cannot help but smile every time she was on screen. From her horrible pronunciations of European words, to her personality changing every single frame, emotion really plays an important part of Athena. And I mean that literally. With Phoenix's psych locks and Apollo's perceivability, they needed something that made her stand out. Athena has the gift of being able to hear a person's emotions in the way they speak, and this brings in the mood matrix. With Athena's little adorable widget, we get to find contradictions between a person's statement and the way they feel. While most people hated these segments, I thought they were really creative, if a bit too easy. And I also love how they bring this gameplay aspect into Athena's backstory. As a child, Athena's gift was both a blessing and a curse. She would hear every person she came across and their true emotions. Her mother wanted to save Athena and studied her to find a cure. This leads to her mother's eventual death, and Athena has to be a witness for the case. Refusing to believe that Simon Blackwell is the murderer, she becomes an attorney. Turnabout for Tomorrow happens, and Athena is now accused of killing her own mother, and Athena starts to believe it. And as she has those black psych locks, it's one of the most heart-stopping moments in the series. In short, Athena is just awesome. Her never-ending determination, emotional backstory, and her huge contrast to Phoenix and Apollo make Athena one of the most lovable characters. Don't screw up in Ace Attorney 6. Please! I wonder how much hate I'm gonna get for putting this above Athena. Simon Blackwell is the prosecutor of Dual Destinies, and he is terrifying. Before we even see Blackwell, Fulbright informs us that he's a death row convict for murder, and he has a reputation for acting like a samurai. 'Cause what else do you want in court? Seeing Simon for the first time is even more nerve-wracking. He has thick metal chains, rather aggressive movements, and a haunting grin. But that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Silence!
Did he just break the chains? Did he just try to kill me with his claws? And is that a hawk? This is done just perfectly. Blackwell consistently gave me goosebumps, which is exactly what the game was going for. How does a terrifying death row convict get on the list? Similar to Athena, it all comes down to Turnabout for Tomorrow. During Athena's mother's death, Simon found Athena near the body. Afraid that Athena was the real murderer, he framed himself. And that takes some pretty big guts to do. He got convicted, saved Athena, and went to jail for 7 years until the events of Dual Destinies. As already mentioned, Athena wants to save Simon for the crime. Simon obviously could not be found innocent because the only next suspect is Athena, which leads to the most interesting testimonies in the entire series. Eventually, the Phantom is found out. Both Blackwell and Athena are found innocent, and Blackwell finally gets out of jail with a super dramatic removing of the chains. I love Blackwell for his swag, unforgettable terrifying moments, and just for the pure irony of it. The prosecutor who is already convicted for a crime is the true courageous hero was something I was not expecting. Nice job, Blackwell. Just get rid of the hawk, please. Ace Attorney has some weird logic that the assistant must be a young girl. And they've kept this almost as a tradition, even making Dr. Watson like a 5-year-old. Even though this is probably just Japan being crazy psychopaths as they are, I want to believe that they're trying to replicate someone. The person who started the trend. Maya Fey. Where do I even begin with Maya? Well, let's see. Maya is the younger sister of Mia Fey, who happens to be Phoenix's mentor. And after the case where Maya is accused of killing Mia, Phoenix and Maya stick together as the unstoppable attorney office pair. And this isn't even getting into Maya's crazy persona. Maya's personality is hard to explain the least. She's sometimes a joker, sometimes a random hero who saves the day, and sometimes not too right in the head. Explaining Maya's entire character could take weeks. But she does have one defining characteristic. Being a spirit medium in training, Maya can occasionally call Mia to possess her body. This ability is used very well in cases like Farewell My Turnabout and Bridge to the Turnabout. And speaking of those cases, Maya seems to be the driving force for Phoenix. She is accused of murder in pretty much every game. She's kidnapped, almost starved to death in a cave, and through all of that she comes out with a smile on her face. As I've already said, it's way too broad to explain her in full. Her can-do attitude and hilarious banter with Nick makes Maya appear at number 5. I mean, who doesn't love Maya? Oh. Okay. Fair enough. One of the parts of Ace Attorney that immediately impressed me was the way they made important roles of a court case interesting. I'm not just speaking of witnesses or Phoenix as a defense attorney, but by making the prosecutors and even judge entertaining. I was really prepared how they would handle a detective. I was expecting a gruff, angry investigator who would be as vague and rude as possible. And what did I really get? Well, I got Gumshoe. Knowing the way Capcom names the characters in Ace Attorney, Dick Gumshoe should really be, well, you know. And for the first case, this is kinda true, but Turnabout Samurai onwards, Gumshoe is one of the most lovable goofballs ever. Back when Edgeworth was under Manfred von Karma, Gumshoe got accused of murder. After Edgeworth ended up finding the real culprit, Gumshoe vowed his job to Edgeworth. So now Gumshoe follows Edgeworth like a attached puppy. Starting to see where the name comes from? I ironically feel that Gumshoe is one of the most interesting characters in the series. His personality bounces off the wall pretty much in every single case. For example, he's hardworking and serious in cases like Turnabout Goodbyes and Farewell My Turnabout. But he also appears to act like a dumb moron who glosses over the largest mistakes during cases like Reunion and Turnabout. Mix in hilarious dialogue always associated with Gumshoe, and you have a character that you love, laugh at, and feel bad for all at the same time. I also kind of feel bad for Gumshoe. He seems to be one of the most tragic characters in the game. He's been accused of murder, lost his job, is denied investigation probably like 80% of the time. He's called an idiot by almost every single person in court, including Edgeworth. And he's gotten God knows how many salary cuts to the point where he can only eat instant noodles for the rest of his life. And all these sad and strangely dark stories with Gumshoe is why I love his moments. When all these bad things happen to him, when it's his time to shine, it becomes all the more surprising and emotional. Like when he finally gets the girl of his dreams, or the several times when he comes in with the decisive evidence at the end of a case. Or even, he gets a raise? Gumshoe is just too silly and lovable to hate. I love his constant banter, willingness to help despite his stupidity and life situation, and of course his loyalty to Edgeworth. Gumshoe is the best detective that the series has ever had. Even Bobby Fulbright cannot compare to Gumshoe. Keep on truckin', pal. For whatever reason, people call the series the Phoenix Wright series. Please, stop! Phoenix Wright is the only main title in 4 of the games in the series, exactly half. And I think what shows this best is that Phoenix isn't even my favorite character in the game. Phoenix Wright, or as most people recognize him, the weird court attorney in all those videos with the spiky hair, is not my favorite character in the series. And I think most people will agree with me. Heck, Edgeworth appears in more games than Phoenix does. So yeah, Phoenix isn't even that big of a character in the series. To be fair, Wright is the most realistic character. He doesn't have anything special about his personality, and he always acts in a reasonable way. So why does a boring character come all the way up to number 3? Well, it really comes down to his backstory and relationships. Phoenix easily has to deal with the most heartbreaking moments in any video game ever. Just his backstory alone. He had a traumatic experience when his classmates accused him of stealing someone's lunch money. And in college, he learns that his girlfriend is a murderer who wants to kill him. And only after is he saved by Mia Fey in court does he decide to become a defense attorney, and defend those with no one by their side. And there are so many other things in his life that have gone wrong. He's been accused of murder 3 times, almost lost about 10 cases where friends were defendants, had his own mentor died, almost is responsible for Maya's death twice, and loses his attorney badge for a crime he did not commit. And despite all of this, Phoenix remains the person he is. A protector of the weak and defender of justice. And through all these trials and tribulations, Phoenix is a successful person. He's only lost 2 cases in his entire career, one of which he purposely failed at because he was defending a murderer, and another case ending because of unfair evidence. He has created the attorney agency, became a legend in the courtroom, has an adopted daughter, and becomes a great mentor for Apollo and Athena. Phoenix really does take a complete character arc, and this isn't even mentioning his emotional moments. Phoenix's realism and optimism makes him a great protagonist to control. When he's defeated, you feel defeated. Just look at this moment in Farewell My Turnabout. Phoenix conveys the most emotion in the entire series, and the heartbreaking moments feel that much more impactful because of it. So Phoenix may not be as comedic or ridiculous as the bunch, but his constant, never-dying attitude and how wise he becomes as the series progresses makes Phoenix so realistic and touching. Oh yeah, he has a hell of a scream too. Objection! Come on, you guys saw this coming from a mile away. Get it? Mile? You cannot talk about any Ace Attorney characters without at least mentioning Miles Edgeworth. Even in the first game, Edgeworth has become a fan favorite. And really, I can't blame everyone. Edgeworth has arguably overcome even more odds than Phoenix, and let's just start with his backstory. Edgeworth's father, Gregory Edgeworth, as I've already mentioned, was a defense attorney, and Miles strived to be one as well. That was until Manfred von Karma murdered Gregory, and Edgeworth's view on the law changed. He was taken under the wing of the same person who killed his dad. He learns the ways of a prosecutor from a man who encourages lying in court. So to say the least, when you meet him in the first game, you kind of hate him, but everything afterwards makes Edgeworth such a compelling character. As the game goes on, Edgeworth sees the errors in his ways. He even goes so far as to help Phoenix convict Dee Vasquez. But Edgeworth's true colors start to show when he is accused of murdering Robert Hammond. Edgeworth reveals that he has nightmares that he believed he killed his father during DL6, going so far as to plead guilty in court the day the DL6 case expires. Phoenix proves that Von Karma is guilty and Edgeworth starts to change. He leaves a note saying the prosecutor Edgeworth is dead, and everyone assumes suicide. In reality, he was taking a break, learning who he truly was before he returns in Farewell My Turnabout. He even comes back in Trials and Tribulations as a replacement for Phoenix. All of this is not even mentioning his huge character arc in Investigations 2, where he meets Wright. Edgeworth is so torn about which side of the law he should join, leading to one of the best struggles in the series. He goes so far as to give up his own prosecutor's badge to defend Kay. Edgeworth does eventually go back to being a prosecutor, but this conflict shows how deep his character goes. It's almost impossible to explain it all right here. Every single episode, including the flashbacks, contributes to his character arc. Along with his diverse personality like loving the Steel Samurai and chess, makes Edgeworth one of the best characters in video game history. And just imagine, he's not even number 1. What character could I love more than Gumshoe, Phoenix, and even Edgeworth? Not only is this person my favorite Ace Attorney character, but my favorite video game character of all time, period. And for all those who somehow do not know who he is yet, it's the coffee-loving attorney from the depths of hell itself, Godot. Godot, however the heck you want to say his name, is my favorite Ace Attorney character. Godot, or his real name, Diego Armando, may only appear in 4 cases in Trials and Tribulations, but his appearances are some of the most memorable, engaging, and emotional moments the series will ever see. And let's just start off with his personality. Godot is easily the swag lord of the series. He may look like a robot, but there is so much more personality. Not only does he have a scary addiction to coffee, but his speech pattern is also really interesting. His strangely poetic sayings mix perfectly with his cool, calm, and collected exterior. Seriously, how does a glorified jerk say things like this? Blacker than a moonless night, and hotter and more bitter than hell itself. That is coffee. Just how? All of this cool exterior hides a very tragic interior. When Godot was Diego Armando, he was a defense attorney, and a mentor for Mia. During Mia's first case with Terry Fallis, the real culprit, Dahlia Hawthorne, almost walked free. He interrogated Dahlia, and she ended up poisoning his coffee, putting him into a 6-year coma. He only woke up from the smell of the doctor's coffee, but blind. The red visor is what lets him see, and the white hair is from the drugs he was given in his coma. And hearing that his love Mia was murdered, Godot gets a little more than pissed off. And this leads to Bridge to the Turnabout, where Godot finds out about the plan about the now-deceased Dahlia Hawthorne to kill Maya, so Pearl can inherit the role of Kurain Master. So Godot meets up with Misty and Iris to attempt to stop this murder. Things don't really go as planned. Misty ends up having to channel Dahlia so Pearl cannot, but Dahlia still attempts to kill Maya, and to prevent it, Godot has to sadly kill Misty. This is most people's criticism of Godot. He ends up killing a person and then basically pins the blame on the person he was trying to protect. But I look at this a different way. First off, Godot really doesn't have much of a choice when it comes down to murder. It was either Misty or Maya, and let's be honest, Misty was willing to give up her own life for her daughter. And as for framing Maya, Godot has a much more depressing and sad motive. As already mentioned, he is disappointed in Phoenix for not being able to protect Mia. So I seem to think this is Godot's final test if he would be able to save Maya. And it's not until the final objection with Ghost Mia at Phoenix's side does Godot start to believe. He immediately changes his ways, accepting that he killed Misty. Godot finally realizes this is what Mia wanted. And all of this leads to the best quote in the entire series. In my world, the color red does not exist. so these must be my tears. This is why Godot is such an amazing character. Not only does he have a distinctive personality of any of the other main prosecutors, but he also has so much more depth to his backstory and character development than any other character in the series. He's also the only killer in the series I respect. Everyone else kills for selfish reasons, with maybe the exception of D. Vasquez. He saves Maya's life and is mostly willing to take the fall for some unfortunate events. He is a complex character with layers of personality, who only kills a person when he has no other choice. And that's why Godot is not only my favorite Ace Attorney character, but one of my favorite characters of all time. This has been CrystalMan2000, and tell me what your guys' favorite Ace Attorney characters are in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.